Oh, my Lord, you've got me living on the front line.
It's a war out there, and this is the battleground. Relevant teaching for today's battles. And now with you, the hosts of your program.
So here we have Eve eating and dying in an instant. And by the way, her body started to die physically. It was never meant to die. It was never meant to die, but at that very second, her body started to die instantly. But now we have here Adam, who is fully alive, looking at a dead woman. And notice that I used 2 cups because the cup represents emptiness. Watch how empty it is. Emptiness. And Adam is looking at a dead woman, and he's got himself a dilemma. Because he figures, if I eat, I will die. But if I don't eat, God will remove her and I will be left alone. And there's not another one like her. He loved her. The Bible says that he loved her. So he's got a dilemma, and he looks at God, and maybe looks at her, and looks at God, and looks at her, and maybe he said something like this: it was you who gave her to me. I wish I would have never met her than have her and lose her. And he chose, knowing the consequences. The Bible says that he was not deceived, and he chose to be with his bride and ate. And when he ate, God left him. Now we have 2 dead people, empty and separated from a living God. God kicks them out of the garden, not because he was mad, not to chastise them or discipline them. God kicks them out of the garden because there was also a tree called the tree of life in the garden. And this tree, had they eaten it in an empty, dead state, they would have lived physically forever. And God didn't want them. God wanted to redeem them. God had a plan for the future. So he kicks them out of the garden, and they start to procreate. They start to have babies. But I want you to know that 2 blue people have blue babies. And by blue, I mean separated from a red God, separated from a living God. Beloved, when you and I were born from our mothers, we were born spiritually dead, separated from a living God. This is why the gospel has to be preached right. This is why the gospel has to be preached clearly. And pastors aren't doing that anymore. We have a few songs, we do a couple of skits, and we have an altar call, and people are coming up to receive. They don't even know what they're receiving because nobody has explained it to them. It's a matter of life and death, beloved. And this is why people go to church for months and months and years, and nothing really changes. So we have Adam and Eve procreating blue people. Procreating. Well, God looks down from heaven. 4,000 years later, God looks down and he sees that all are blue. For the wages of Adam's sin, the Bible says, brought death to the earth. And now there's none righteous, no, not one, the Bible says. Let me color code that for you. There's none red, no, not one. For all are blue, for all have sinned and fallen short of the redness of the glory of God. So he looks at a young lady, and by the way, when God left us, I believe with all my heart that there was a residue that was left. There was something of God that was left inside of us, that every tribe, every person in the world yearns and looks for something, and we try to fill this void with gods of stone or gods of wood or drugs, or we try to fill this, and we think more money's gonna help it, and we think if we had more, if we buy more toys, or if we have more women, or if we have more men or something, we're always trying to fill this. And this is why so many men, like for example Elvis Presley, good looking, had all the money in the world, was empty. Anna Nicole Smith, and on and on and on. These people have committed suicide, overdosed, having everything according to the material things, everything they could possibly want, and yet they were still empty because they're looking for something. They don't understand what they're looking for, and that something is Jesus, the only one that can fill this void. Life's hidden hunger is Christ, and yet the world doesn't know it. Help me to tell them, beloved, I think he's coming back soon. Well, anyways, 4,000 years later, God sees a young lady by the name of Mary. You know the story, and he impregnates her with himself. And 9 months later, born out of this blue young lady who had a heart for God, is born the second Adam. He's called the second Adam because there had never been another red-filled man. Jesus was a man God, a God man, all God. He left heaven, he left his glory and took upon himself the form of a man. He had to do that so that you and I, so that he can relate to us. He had to do that so that he can pay the penalty that his Father had put on sin, and that was death. The Bible says the wages of sin is death. The wages of Adam's sin brought death to the world. Now the reason I can't die for you or you die for me is that we're both the same. It needed to have something alive. So he comes down, he lives like a man, is tempted in every way you and I are tempted, yet sinless. And he goes to the cross and he carries on himself the sin of the whole world. I want you to know, beloved, that here's this living man walking amongst dead people. Nicodemus came up to him. Nicodemus, a Pharisee, a pretty good guy. Look, read it in the book of John. In the Gospel of John, Nicodemus comes up to him and he says, Master, how can I enter the kingdom of heaven? In other words, let me color code it. Master, how can I get to a red heaven? Jesus says, Nicodemus, watch, beloved, you have to be born again. Nicodemus, thinking like a blue man, like a natural man, like you and I would think, he says, how can I enter my mama's womb when I'm already old? Jesus more or less said, not from your mama, Nicodemus, from my papa. That which is born blue is blue. That which is from the water is water. That which is natural is natural. I'm speaking about spiritual things. You see, Nicodemus, I am the way, the truth, and the life. And you can't get to a red God and a red heaven unless you have red in you. And I'm the only one that has it. I want you to know that Buddha cannot get you there. Buddha was blue. I want you to know that Muhammad cannot get you there. Muhammad is blue. Religion cannot get you there. You can be the best blue person that ever lived. You can give your blue money to a blue pastor. You can be baptized in blue water 1,000 times, where even a barracuda's your best friend, die and still go to hell. Because you need to have Jesus in you. Watch this. I'm going to color code this for you. In the book of John, chapter 1, it says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God, and the Word, watch this, became flesh.
My Lord, you've got me living on the front line.
You have been listening to The Battlegrounds, and thank you so much for being with us today. We are a listener-supported ministry. For more information or prayer requests, please call 305-247-6352. May God bless you.